Do it. I feel like we don't talk anymore. Do you guys feel like that? You know why? It's because, hang on. That's something. Whoa. Huh. Kind of cool. How about this? It's because I fish too much. I am really busy with work, and what happens is I get really stressed out, and then any downtime I've got, I'm off like a shot to the river. And so tonight, it's a beautiful evening. Temperature is perfect. There's a slight breeze, not a cloud in the sky, but I'm going to force myself to sit here and tie some flies. And I thought I might as well make a good rambly type pipe video. Smoking my Missouri Meerschaum hardwood, custom rusticated by Blue Sage Thrift Studios on Etsy. Half and half with sage here on YouTube. And in it, I'm smoking some Three Oaks Vintage Syrian. It's very nice. So, hang on. So it's Tuesday night. I went fishing on Saturday, totally skunked out. Went fishing on Sunday. I caught one trout and some lesser fish. I think my total was 5 fish for the day. Sunday I was like, I'm gonna go out and find new places to fish. So I like scouted out on the map, where I'm gonna go, and I put all the GPS coordinates on my phone, and I drove around for like 2 hours. And everywhere that was supposed to be like the super awesome wild trout stream, or even a stocked stream, a public stream, everywhere that when I ended up following the directions and getting there, and Google's like, you have arrived, I couldn't see any water. Like, I was just out in the middle of nowhere, and there was like not a stream. Like, there was like a ditch running under the road, but other than that, so I don't know what the deal is with that. So anyway, at about noon, I was like, screw this, and I went to my favorite section of water that is stocked and never fail to catch a fish there, yada, yada, yada. And I caught one trout on a burnt orange, whatever kind of orange, brown orange you would call that, woolly bugger. And this has been surprisingly effective for me lately. But anyway, I fished all day. I fished from 12 to about 8 o'clock that night. And that was all I got. And I heard that same story from other folks. Hang on, let me relight. Heard that same story from other folks over the weekend. And I think there was a change in the weather, or for whatever reason, the trout just weren't biting. So I had said I wasn't going to fish in my little home water creek anymore. Let me adjust that. There's the palm of my hand there. You can tell all my fortunes or whatever. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to fish there anymore because it's so small and I'm kind of bored with it. But I had not scratched the itch over the weekend. So I decided that I would go back to my home waters last night, which was Monday night, and fish around. But I wanted to do things differently. I have been fishing with basic, standard Western style attractor patterns: elk hair caddis, the stimulator, the pheasant tail nymph, the hare's ear, and lately a stonefly. I don't have any stoneflies right here. Basically, this whole side of my fly box is the textbook stuff that you're supposed to be fishing with around here right now. And I was very frustrated because I hadn't caught anything, even using the textbook stuff the day before. Now, I've caught stuff other days, but I thought, I've been really interested in like sort of looking in the Tenkara direction. Not that I like the idea necessarily of a pole without a reel, but I like the simplicity of it. Because let's be honest, when people are like, fly fishing's not that expensive, they're wrong. And we've discussed this before, right? For me, the big expense, because I was willing to buy a dirt cheap rod and reel combo, the big expense has been the fly tying. And that's even after very generous folks gave me a bunch of stuff. And so, it's things like for April and May, right? My mentor told me, oh, well, you need to be fishing the elk hair caddis, and for that you're going to need elk hair, which I had, and you're going to need the proper hackle. Cool. Well, a whiting 100 pack of the proper hackle is $20, right? And I decided I would tie these in a size. I think I decided on 14 or whatever. And so, I tied a bunch of those. And then he was like, well, in June, you got to switch over to the stimulator in a size 12. So I go to the fly shop and I'm like, what do I need for the stimulator? And they were like, well, you're going to need the same hackle you've got, just in a size 12, and a different kind of hackle in a size 12. Well, that's $40, man. And so I talked to my guru and I'm like, hey, what do I do about this? I can't afford, $40 every month. Because my idea was with each month I would tie a new pattern, And he was like, well, that's just kind of, until you get it really up and running, it is kind of expensive. Kind of expensive. Like $60 over the course of 2 months. And that's just the hackle. Like that doesn't cover the pheasant tail and the threads and the wires. And, so basically I spent like $200 on fly tying stuff after someone gave me a giant box of fly tying materials. And that's just cost prohibitive, y'all. When you can go, I'm coming from a spin fishing background, when you can go to the store and buy some trout magnets for like a dozen for $1.99 and throw them in the water and catch fish, it's hard to be like, I'm going to spend more than my rod and reel on 2 months worth of fishing flies. So I bought a pack of fancy barbless hooks and I started tying Tenkara flies because they're so dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. And these guys actually work. At this point, in the last couple of weeks, I have caught almost as many trout on Tenkara flies as I have on the Match the Hatch Western flies. This one is one on the fancy hook. Now, these hooks, you get 25 of them for like $11. So the last time I was at the fishing store, I went over to the spin fishing aisle, right, where all the sinners hang out. And I looked around and I found these guys right here. I know, they're spin fishing hooks. I know, but they're 63 for $5, and they look very, very much like the fancy barbless Tenkara hooks. The Tenkara hooks are branded Tenkara hooks. The other ones are just hooks. So here's a Tenkara fly tied on the spin fishing hook with a mashed barb. Took me all of 3 seconds to mash it. And here's one tied on the fancy hook. I don't know. Maybe the fish can tell a difference. I don't think so. These are a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, but that's fine. Actually, I think these flies work better with a little weight on them. Whatever. I did the math, and I'm tying these flies for like 30 cents a piece, which is still more expensive than trout magnets, but it's not like, $1.50 a piece for the Western flies. So I went to my spot last night, and I had an awesome time not changing flies all the time. I had a great time just being like, well, this is the only... I actually took everything out of my box except Tenkara flies. And I had a lot of fun. So, little bit of a paradigm shift for me. I don't think I've been at this long enough to have a paradigm, really. But that's what I'm going to be tying tonight. And we're already 9 minutes in, so it's pretty rambly already. But maybe I'll keep this going a little while and we can yak a little bit. Now, when it comes to tying flies, I have absolutely no clue what I'm actually talking about. So, this is not an instructional video, nor should anything I do be emulated in any way, except I did want to point out, as a total noob, all I need for these flies is a pack of Hungarian partridge feathers for $4 and some thread. And really the only tools I use are the whip finish tool and a pair of scissors. I don't use head cement with these. And like I said, they seem to be pretty damn effective. That's pretty cool. So I am trying to fill up this whole side of my fly box with Tenkara flies. Let's do it. Yeah, I can already kind of tell. It's gonna be hard to smoke and tie and talk at the same time. But honestly, These flies are a little boring to tie because there's so much thread. And yeah, hang on. Oop. It's just thread. You're just making a body out of thread. So it's not quite as entertaining as tying, something with two different kinds of hackle or whatever. There's a lot of like tedious time staring at a hook, and I actually did go out and I bought some thicker thread just to make the process a little quicker. So I wanted to ramble about what I'm sensing in fly fishing as someone just coming into the hobby, to the sport, to the practice, to the art. There's a lot of clinched up egos that I'm encountering in terms of like, this is the right way to do something and there's no other way to do it. And at first, as I said, I was like, well, I've got to match the hatch. I've got to, follow my guru's instructions. Not that he's really that way. Nah, he is kind of that way, but in an endearing sort of way. Not in a, he's not a dick about it. Although he's got some fun things to say about spin fishermen, that's for sure. But there just seems like on the internet for it and in the marketing, it's all about this minor product will help you catch more fish, and maybe it will and maybe it won't. But what appeals to me about fishing is its simplicity. Most notably, what other activity can take my mind off of everything else for an entire day, other than like drinking to oblivion or something like that. And so I'm trying to find simple ways to do it because I know about myself being a gearhead. I know that if I let myself, I could spend so much money on this stuff. Even not even buying like a fancy rod and reel, just accessories. So okay, yeah, I think that's a pretty good. Yeah. So like if there was a newbie to the pipe smoking hobby and you were like, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. And I know some people are like that with how you load your pipe, how you pack your pipe, how you clean your pipe. And my thing to a newbie would be, yeah, it's important to learn basics of pipe smoking, but God, just enjoy yourself. It doesn't, you don't have to overthink it. And if it's true that mastery comes from simplicity, mastering something, I think I've mastered pipe smoking. I don't feel that there's much of a challenge in that. I don't really want a challenge in pipe smoking, but at the beginning it was a challenge. It takes some practice and some skill. Well, I'm over that. I've been doing this 9 years or whatever now. So it's no long. I no longer really have to think about smoking a pipe very much. And I think it is true that mastery has come from simplicity, which is why I mostly smoke corncob pipes these days. It's kind of a thing where I've got a lot of nice briars, but I just enjoy the simplicity of a corncob pipe, something I don't have to worry so much about. And I'm sensing that there might be something to this that's similar. All right, now I have to tie this on. Actually, I have to prepare another feather. So I'm probably going to pause awkwardly here while I'm doing this. I think so much of the time in life, in hobbies, it's very easy for our egos to take over and think, well, I got to do this the right way. So we got to determine the right way, which is difficult. And then the right way is usually the expensive way. And maybe you should just do it the way, Just do it. Just have the experience, not the possessions. Oh, this is the part that I hate, is separating these little feathers. Okay. One thing is these flies are supposed to be super quick to tie, and I am not finding them very quick because it takes a long time to build up all that thread. And then I'm going to do this backwards from how I see it done on the tube. Tie these in facing the other way there. But yeah, what I'm learning is make your own rules. Make your own damn rules and do it, you know, like it's definitely beneficial to learn what people do and the standard ways of doing things, but at the end of the day, find your own path in whatever you're doing, you know? I think I'm going to call it here. What is that, like a 15-minute video in which I talked about basically nothing? Thank you for watching. I'm going to tie some flies, keep the ends out for the ties that bind.